Up and running? Anyone having issues still? No one is having issues, right? Because today onwards, we are going to start the J2E programming. So just give me a minute. We will start it in a minute. In the meantime, if you have any questions on JDBC, whatever you did, please ask. I'm just setting up the data in a minute. Just a second. So, okay, are there any questions on JDBC? Has anyone tried doing this user login and the other, I mean, whatever, the getting all topics, getting tutorials by this? Very good. I see people have done it. Very good. So let us just quickly go through the steps. I mean, generic steps. I'm not talking any specific steps. So if you say, suppose I want to get all the topics, available under our website. So that is the requirement, suppose you are solving. So what are the JDBC steps? Everyone knows. You have to add the JDBC jar into runtime class path. Add external jar. Today onwards, I'll give you different instructions. Tell me, what is the next step we build? Okay, I don't want a mixed up solution. I want a layered architecture. So can you tell me what are the layers from the top to below, top to down? Give me the layers, chain. Yes, from top to, Ashish, from top to bottom. Yes. Okay, you are giving it in a bottoms up manner. Fine. So tester talking to DAO layer. DAO talking to, yes, DAO using your DB utils and POJOs and the database is a very right answer. So whenever you are developing, in which manner we do? You know this, in bottoms up manner we do. So suppose you have got a table. From table, what is the next layer which you create? POJO. So suppose you say, suppose you want to work on a topics table, the POJO which you will create is a topic POJO. So the database table is mapped. I'm talking about ORM. I'm revising your object to relational mapping. So topics table is mapped to topic POJO. Then the table columns will be mapped to what in our Java world, in our object world? The table columns will be POJO properties. Yes. No. This one's actually properties. We are saying the POJO table columns are mapped to POJO properties. And what is a property? Non-static, non-transient data member, which is an instance variable, which is typically the state of the POJO. Next, table has rows. So what will rows correspond to? The actual POJOs, or you can say POJO class instances, objects, anything. So when you say, suppose I have published the tutorials under 10 topics, that means there are 10 rows in the database table. What will it correspond to in our Java world? 10 topic class instances. So this is the heart of object to relational mapping. When I take you to Hibernate sometime in the next week, we will see that the primary key of the database table will also be mapped to something like unique ID, but that is later. Okay, so this is your ORM. So everyone, I think, can manage the POJO class. I hope nobody is having any difficulty creating POJOs. Now tell me the next layer. So first tell me DB utils. What is the job of DB utils? We write one method, open connection. Yes, to get the connection. Okay, so that is your getting the connection part, getting the fixed connection part. Very right. Now the next one. So, okay, so do you have to, is this step, class.forName, is it optional or is it mandatory? It is completely optional. One more change I'm going to give you. Good, I remembered. See, because otherwise, we may forget. So I'm giving you the instruction. Please follow. Those who are not doing it now, do it in the lab session. I'll put it in the lab instructions. See, the one which I had given you guys, the JDBC driver is of a later version. So let us put it in the Tomcat left folder. I'll give you the instructions slowly. Follow me. Open your, I'll tell you, Java EE day1 data. Do it with me. Oh, I'll tell you what, don't do blindly. What I'm going to do is, we are just going to upgrade the MySQL driver. That is all I'm doing for our web applications. Okay, so go to day1 help, JDBC help, JDBC drivers. You can see the connector version is 8.0.27. I have downloaded it from something called as Maven Central Repository. What is that and all will be clear in the next week. So just copy this. Everyone found it? MySQL connector 8.0.27, the latest one. Okay. Now, where have you installed Tomcat that you only know? So, for example, I have installed it on C drive. Installed means extracted the zip file. So, go to Apache Tomcat. Everyone reached here? I'll wait. Go to your Apache. This is called as Tomcat Home, by the way. Tomcat Home is what? The install directory, the directory where you have extracted Tomcat. Can you see under that a lib folder? The lib stands for library, and you will see all the Tomcat jars are there. Can you see that? Can you find that? Rather, have you found that? Everyone? Okay. Those who are not doing it now, please make a note of it. Now, there is a 8.0.20 sitting there. Delete it. And paste the latest one, 8.0.27. I just want you to use the latest driver. So some of the programming steps will reduce. Everyone done this? You understood what I asked you to do? Just upgrade the driver. Nothing, no rocket science. Okay, that was a small break. I mean, diversion. So now coming back to this. So we were talking about displaying all the topics. So you have got your, this step is completely optional, but which is the step which is compulsory? You have to say driver manager.get connection. And what are the three arguments? DB URL, username, and password. Everyone gets it. So now, if I want to get all the topics, what will you select? Statement, prepared statement, or callable statement? What will you go for? ST, PST, or CST to get all the topics? Is there a lag? Okay, statement is a wrong answer. Okay, you are saying because statement is a totally wrong answer. I'll tell you why. Are you going to write a web application only for one user or for multiple users? Multiple client or single client? Multiple clients. So multiple clients could be visiting your website. After logging in, they could be saying, show me all the available topics. In short, this method, getting all available topics, is it going to be called once or multiple times? Single or multiple? Multiple. So which one is better in this case? If you have any repetitive queries, which one fares well? Of course, prepared statement. Are you understanding, guys? That's why I said prepared statement. Okay, so now this is your prepared statement. So, okay, but before I say that, let us talk layer wise. Which is the layer? Your POJO is there, your table is there, your DB utils are done. Which is the next layer we build? Is the DAO layer, data access layer, or you can say data access object layer. You start with the interface or implementation class. We start with the interface, you know that. So here you will have, we had discussed this, I had sent you updated version of lab instructions also. So something like get all available topics or get all topics. And what will be the return type of this method? Result set or a list? It will be list. And what will be the type of the list? List of the type of the list will be topic, which has topic ID and topic name both. Everyone clear? Okay, writing the interface alone is not sufficient. So you must have written a DAO implementation class, correct? Yes. Tell me, what are the data members have you added? This is just a quick revision. What are the data members you must have added? Connection and prepare statement. Very right. You can open your DAO and answer me. Right. So now in the constructor, the best place to initialize is the constructor. So in constructor, what is the first step which you do? Establish the connection. Very right. Next step, open connection. Yes. What is the next step? Create a pre-parsed, pre-compiled statement object. So will you pass the query at this point? 100% yes. Even if there is a insert a query, even if there are no in parameters, you still keep it in a pre-parsed, pre-compiled manner. So it is ready for execution, right? So this is your constructor. Then do you have to close these database resources, or will you keep them open when the application terminates? Of course, you'll have to close them. Everyone knows that. Next one. So that is your cleanup kind of a method. You can call it anything. Resource closing cleanup. And what is it you will close first? Prepared statement or connection? Prepared statement will be closed first. Very right. And then ultimately, you might be having multiple prepared statements. After that, you will close a connection. Now, yes, connection last, right? So now comes to the CRUD method. So we are talking about get all available topics. There are no in parameters, so you don't have to set the in parameter. Which execution method will you use for this? EQ, EU, or execute? I mean, execute query, execute update, or execute query. What decides which execution method to choose? The type of the query. If it is a select DQL type, which returns you the result set, use execute query. If it is a DDL or DML, what will you use? Execute update. And if you are executing a stored procedure or stored function, what will you use? Execute. All clear? Somebody was telling me that I use this instead of this, still it worked. It may work with a particular database, particular driver, but as far as possible, we will stick to whatever Java Docs API suggests. Okay, so let's not make changes. Okay, so execute query. What is the result? What is the return type of execute query? Result set. Result set is what? Nothing but a object representation of selected fetch rows and columns. So result set has a cursor. What is the cursor position? Before the first row, which is the method to traverse, iterate over the result set. Next. So you can have a loop. So here you may have multiple topics. So use while. For your user login or anything which is based on some primary key or unique, you use if. Very right. So, and then you just have to read. You have getters in result set, get int, get double, get boolean, get float, whatever, and you have column positions. So answer the last question. What will be those column positions? Will they be as per the database or will they be as per the result set? Database or result set? Database is a wrong answer because here we said select star. So database order and result set order is the same. But yesterday I had shown you, if I pick up some of the columns, in employee or in your user, ID, name and email, will you refer to database column order or will you refer to result set column order? Answer is result set. Will they start with 0 or 1? In JDBC, everything starts with, everything means what? Row num and column numbers start with 1. Are we all clear? So you iterate over the result set, read the result set data, populate it in topic Pojo, and add this topic Pojo reference into the list. And the DAO layer then returns this populated Pojo list, populated topic list to the tester. Tester is easy. Okay, so that finishes the DAO layer. Everyone visualizes it perfectly. Everyone can feel confident in creating a DAO layer. Okay, now tester is easy. What is the job of the tester? Two things. UI, talking to user interface, plus managing the DAO layer. So you open scanner, you create the instance of the DAO layer and simply invoke the method. And before terminating, which is the method of the DAO layer you have to call? Cleanup. So this is a quick look at your entire, JDBC steps using the layered architecture. Are we 100% clear? Everyone has at least written one example using this layered architecture. If you have completed all, very good, excellent. But at least one. Okay, great. So that makes me happy. So we have done all this. Okay, so I don't have to say this, just a second. I'll open my other sequence file. So let us start with today's things. Java EE help, D3 help. Okay. So here is the official welcome, official formal starting of Enterprise Java. What we were doing for the first 2 days in J2E Advanced Java was only the database connectivity part. But now onwards, everyone's web server, everyone has deployed a simple web application. So we are going to write from today till the last day of your Advanced Java, all web applications. So everything starts with a version. So let's see. I'll read, I'll highlight this much, read it, and I'll explain word by word. Today we are actually entering Java Enterprise Edition. Anyway, read this. Okay, so let me start explaining, which is the version which I'm showing you, Enterprise Java 8, or it is also called as J2E, J2EE 1.8. Who was maintaining it all these years earlier? It was maintained under Oracle Sun. But from Java E8, it has been called as, it has been maintained under, it is now Oracle Sun is no longer maintaining, it is maintained under Eclipse Foundation. And it is also commonly known as Jakarta EE8. So this is about the license. This is about the name of the Java version, J2E version you are learning. So let me say the basic things. When you, very good, Ankit, if it is 70% done. So here, when you are talking about Enterprise Java, will you still require JDK installed in your machines? Answer is 100% yes. So Java AC, Java Standard Edition JDK is the basic layer. And on the top of that, we have added your Tomcat server. And if you see Tomcat 9.0, 9.0.36, it is J2E 1.8 compliant. Okay, so we have done the correct installation. Now, important question. What is this Java EE or what is this Jakarta EE? So you know these words very well. Two words, specifications, implementation. Both the words you know. So what is Java EE? What is Java Enterprise Edition? Is it consisting of specification, implementation, both or neither? Answer is specs only. When you talk about J2E, when you talk about Enterprise Java, you are going to start today, servlet APIs, then JSP APIs, JSTL, JPA, web services, so many APIs you are going to learn. So what does it consist of? It consists of specifications only. So when I say specification, which part are we talking about? What is to be done? Yes, interfaces, very right. What is to be done or how it is to be done? What or how? Answer is what is to be done. But guys, like one of you, Kunal, I guess, told me interfaces, very right. But writing interfaces alone, sufficient or insufficient? Insufficient. So somebody has to write the implementation classes, and that somebody is nothing but your J2E server vendor, web server vendors, or I can say J2E server vendors. So even before I take you anywhere, further, please open the Tomcat and Tomcat lib folder. Okay, see, because when you see things physically, actually, you immediately start understanding the point. Okay, so have you opened this Apache lib folder? You can see what is it consisting of? It is consisting of jar files. So which is the first J2E specification I'm going to teach you today? Today means we'll start today is the servlet specification. What is servlet and all? Little later. It is nothing but like how you have React components. This is your server side Java component, web component. Okay. So like how we have component lifecycle, component did mount, etc. Likewise, you will see servlet lifecycle today. Okay. So all that will be discussed later. Now come here and tell me, can you see something called as servlet API.jar? You'll definitely find. So when you see this servlet API.jar, this is consisting of, guess, specification, implementation, both or neither. Specs, specification, implementation, both or neither. 4 choices. Answer is, yeah, anyone wants to try? What does it think? No, wrong. Specifications alone. These are the servlet specification coming from Oracle Sun earlier, now Jakarta, Eclipse Foundation. But now, so okay, let me say this. Today we are opting for Tomcat. Tomorrow when you join industry, suppose they are using other server called as WebLogic or WebSphere or Glassfish. There are so many industry grade server, including Tomcat. So in that case, will this specification change or will it be the same? If you choose some other server vendor, will the specifications change or no change? Guys, specification, what is to be done? How can it change? It is all part of J2E. Specifications won't change. Guys, I was expecting correct answers. Some of you gave me correct, some of you are talking wrong. Don't you remember JDBC specification? So Java.SQL package is the same. Connection, statement, prepared statement is all the same. But when you use the Oracle JDBC driver, it has got its own implementation classes. MySQL JDBC driver gives you its own. So tell me again, this servlet specification across the servers, change or no change? Zero change. What is to be done? Same. But what will have to change as per the Tomcat? The implementation classes. How part? So can you see a jar called as Catalina.jar? I guess second one, Catalina.jar. So if you open this, you will find servlet, you'll see the implementation classes of servlet specification. So tell me, when you change the vendor means Apache Tomcat to, let's say, B Systems WebLogic, another famous server, which of the following will change? Your choices are servlet API jar, Catalina jar, both or neither. I'm giving you the names. Catalina.jar will change. Are you understanding it? And this separation makes your entire web application server independent. Means what? While writing the web application using the servlet specs, are you going to use interfaces or are you going to use server specific implementation classes? What is your gut feel? Of course, interfaces. Are you getting me? So interface can refer, one interface reference can refer to any implementation class. Today we are using Tomcat, so it will pick up all the implementation classes from this Catalina jar. Tomorrow you replace it by Glassfish or WebLogic or JBoss or whatever other server. The specification will remain the same and the implementations will change automatically. The moment you say, the moment you install or add different server, automatic change will happen. So what this gives you? Portability. You remember the first day we met, I told you, write once, run anywhere. So that time itself I told you, it is not only limited, Java is not only limited to write once and run on any platform. It also means, thanks to JDBC, now you can connect to any database. And thanks to Enterprise Java or Java EE or J2E or Jakarta EE, you can write server independent web applications. Understood something? 1%? It is the separation between the specification and implementation which gives the web server independence. Okay, so that is what I wanted to emphasize. So what is a Java EE consisting of? Specifications only. What is to be done only. But a logical next question you should have is, fine, oh, okay, got it. But which specs? I mean, which are the rules? Which are the contracts? What are the specifications? So the second answer is, all these are typical questions asked, popular questions. So these are the specifications of primary services, basic services, essential services required for building any corporate, any enterprise application. So now you must be already knowing all this in your web technologies, but still read it. What is that enterprise application? Read. So it is a large software system platform. So we have a Tomcat, and on that we are deploying to operate in a industry environment, corporate environment. So whatever building, whatever projects you are going to build is going to be in your enterprise application, be it written in ASP.NET, let it be in Java, or let it be your Node. I mean, Node background, that is Express and some front end, anything. It could be your e-shopping, I mean, online shopping, payment processing, product handling, billing systems, content management system, anything. So this is what we are going to develop. And when you say you want to develop an enterprise application, do you want to start with basic services? Do you want to focus your energy in building the basic services, or you want to use the ready-made support of basic services? I hope anyone will go for ready-made support so that you can totally focus on your business logic of the project. But unless until you learn these specifications, how can you reach there? So that is what I'm helping you with in the next 2-3 weeks. Okay. So what all are the examples? What all are the parts of this specification? The first one I'm going to show you today is the servlet API. Let me say something here. Servlets, are you actually going to use the servlets in your project? When I say in your project, guys, I'm saying those who want to take Java as a backend. Okay, so I'm talking to those. So in general, you can hear this. So if you say I'm building a project in Java, are you really going to use servlets in your project? 100% not. But without servlet, will you understand the Spring MVC or Spring RESTful API architecture? Surely not. Servlet is the backbone of, or servlet is the entry point to Spring MVC. So I'll say this very loudly, clearly, or slowly, whatever. You have to focus, you have to understand servlets inside out, because all other topics, let it be JSP, let it be Java Bean, let it be Spring Bean, or whatever, are all based out of it. Okay, so we will start with naturally servlet APIs. In 3 days time, when you settle on servlets, JSPs. Web application security is a very important topic. So we cover it towards the end, Spring security and all. Then till now we are using something like fixed connectivity. I'll show you connection pool. EJB you don't have, enterprise Java Bean you don't have in your contents, neither is the JNDI. But the main API you have is the Java persistence API. And the implementer of JPA is Hibernate. So you will learn all of these. So whatever are in your contents, of course, we are going to deal with that. So these are some of the examples of Java J2E APIs, J2E APIs. So be clear. Who is the vendor? Who is the supplier? Who is the founder of J2E specifications? You can say Oracle purchased over Sun, and today maintained by Eclipse Foundation. But is implementation also tightly coupled with the specification? Absolutely not. It is all loose coupling. Implementation is left to J2E vendors. So which is the vendor who is the vendor we are currently using? Apache is the name of the vendor. And what is the product name we have installed or extracted yesterday? Tomcat. So is Tomcat capable enough of implementing all these J2E specifications? No. Web servers are not required to implement all of them. So only services which you will find implemented are servlet specifications, something like JSP, security, connection pooling, and naming. But in your career, if you follow the Java track, and if your company is using commercially or downloaded community version or commercial version application server, there is a difference between web server and an application server. So you won't know web container. You'll require some time, but just right now here, application server is a larger part. I mean, web server, I would say, is a subset of an application server. When I show you web server architecture, Java web server has a web container and only some of the services are implemented. But if you ever work, you don't have application server. This is just like a introduction. I mean, I'm giving you extra knowledge. So if you think of an app server, it has web container, which will manage all these dynamic web components, servlet, JSPs, filters, etc. Plus it has enterprise Java bean EJB container, which is where you write a business logic. And once you download or once you install, add this application server, then you will get to enjoy all of the J2E services. But for your training, which basically revolves around Spring, Hibernate, JP and all, we don't require an application server. So we are going to use lightning fast, very fast, industry grade Tomcat web server. Okay. So as a general knowledge, you should know what are the popular vendors, who are the popular vendors, and which are their well-known products. So the first one is Apache. I'm not saying in an order of like popularity, I'm just quoting all of them. So Apache's, what is the name of the web server, which is truly a web container? Later, I'll tell you the difference. The name is Tomcat, and the application server they have published under the name of Tommy. Oracle Sun has given the reference implementation of all the J2E specification by the name, product name is Glassfish. Red Hat has got, again, Oracle purchased over Red Hat. So JBoss. Oracle purchased over B Systems. The product name is Oracle B WebLogic Server. And IBM is not bought over anyone. So it has got a product name WebSphere. So which is the product, which is the web server we are going to use throughout our J2E training is Tomcat web server. So till I take you to Spring Boot, we will use that added server. Everyone has added a Tomcat web server to your workspace. We will use that. And the day I take you to Spring Boot, you will see that Spring Boot framework, which is on the top of a Spring framework, uses some internal Tomcat server. So then you don't require this external. We will use the internal Tomcat. That you must have seen VMware TC server. That is that internal Tomcat server. So this is why this is what is the introduction. Now, you know, any topic we start, we always start with why. So read this and I'll explain. So why J2E, why Enterprise Java is so popular in industry? It can support different type of clients. Which type of clients we are going to actually use is a web client. Initially, till I show you full stack application, we will use web browser as the client. And once I show you towards the last days, a full stack, what will be the client of your backend application is some JavaScript frontend, namely React frontend. Are you understanding what I'm saying? So basically it is a thin client. But is that the only one which J2E supports? No. It also supports the thick clients, which are also called as Java clients, application clients. Examples of TCP written client, I mean distributed clients, TCP clients, UDP clients, those are the application clients. And it also supports the interaction from your smart clients, mobile clients using iOS or Android. Okay. So which one we have in contents is only the thin clients. So let me ask you again. Yesterday, I showed you server side and the client side. So tell me, when you are running a web application on the IDE, what is it we are talking about? Server side space or client side space? S or C? When you are running a web application in the IDE, wake up guys. Why you are giving me horribly wrong answer? You are starting a web server in the IDE. How can you say client side space? After doing complete web technology, this is shocker. But when you open a web browser and send the request, what is it? So web browser represents what? Client or a server side space. That is your client side space. Guys, be careful in answering. Okay, so the first thing is it supports different type of clients. This part I have already explained. J2E applications, web applications which you write with J2E, will they be server specific or will they be server independent? 100% server independent. Why? Because I already said J2E concept, all we'll be using is the specification. Implementation is left to vendor. So naturally it is server independent. Means what? We are going to create and deploy a server-side application on any, I'm not saying .NET based server. That is cross technology. I'm not talking about that. Any Java server, J2E server, and the same results are guaranteed even when you change from Apache Tomcat to WebSphere to WebLogic to Glassfish. That is that J2E server independence. And the third attractive fact for the programmer is, do you have to waste your important time in implementing the primary services, basic services such as security, connection pooling, sending mails, Java persistence? Absolutely not. Those services are essentially offered by the web servers, web containers, and the underlying infrastructure so that you can focus on actual business logic. So at the time of, preparations and all, definitely go through readmes and find out why J2E. So now let us do some, it's not a hands-on, but you have to understand that when you send a request, people are not clear about request and response flow because server and client, they're all garbled up. So you have to understand all the layers. When a client sends a request to the server, what all happens. So this is what is the first important topic of today. Before that, I have to ask you, guys, I had updated the lab instructions. Somebody reminded me, I think Sakshi reminded me. So after that, just a second, sorry. So I had updated this and I think I had mentioned some reading homework. Has anyone bothered going through these readmes which I had shared? Tell me honestly, has anyone read anything? Or nobody bothered? When I say reading homework, you should have gone that. Next time, today is the last day, I'm excusing you. Next time when I say, this is 10 minutes reading time, only 10 minutes, everyone has to follow. At least thanks for being honest. So next time I say something, you have a reading homework. It is compulsory reading homework because your next day will suffer otherwise. Okay, so I knew most of you won't do that, but this is like I said, the last chance. Next time onwards, I'm not going to waste time in explaining what I've already written in the readmes. Okay, so right now, okay, what I'll do is, now I'll have to open this. In the first day itself, I said, day one help, web programming prerequisites. So after doing web technology, generally you are aware of the fact, but in case you are not, there was a folder Web Basics. And here you have, I'm starting with what is HTTP? What is HTTP request packet? What is HTTP response packet? So now, since you have not read it, I'll have to spend our session time. This is what I hate. That's why. So read this much since you have not read it. Have you had the discussion on HTTP, TCP, IP in your web programming? Tell me honestly. How that request, HTTP request, goes from client to server. Was there any discussion? Okay, so then I'll have to take it. Okay, fine. I got the answer. Fine. Because I'll tell you the connection. When your React frontend sends the request to Express, it is sending a HTTP request. It is making a REST call, HTTP request from the front end to back end. So that is where that HTTP request and response is involved. So I asked you. Anyway, so continue reading. So when you talk about HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, I'm not talking about security yet. HTTPS later. So what is it? Is it a physical level protocol, network layer, or application level? It is an application layer protocol. This much of understanding has to be there, irrespective of your background. Now you are at the same level. So don't tell me, I mean, you can't plead your background. Next one. So this is typically for transferring textual data between client and a server. So anyone wants to tell me HTTP is an application layer protocol. What is the transport layer it uses? TCP or UDP? Which transport layer it uses internally? 100% reliable TCP. UDP is faster, connectionless, but unreliable protocol. We don't use it in, I mean, HTTP doesn't use it. And which is the network protocol we use is the IP layer. It could be IPv4, IPv6 as per the internal implementation that we don't care. Now, is it a stateful protocol or is it a stateless protocol? It is a stateless protocol. Means what? If the same client sends you multiple requests, one after each other, will your web server or will your HTTP server, can it identify that it is coming from the same client? It cannot remember the client. Each and every request is sent from client to server. The servicing happens on the server side. Response is sent back. And that internal TCP connection is closed. So the next request is made as the fresh request. And that is inherent part of HTTP. I mean, that is what happens in HTTP. But if you have heard about FTP, file transfer protocol, it is a stateful protocol. You can send the file over the, I mean, same data can be shared over the or one connection. So that's your stateful. Focus on HTTP, which is your stateless. So will you be able to automatically remember the client from login to logout, or will you have to take help of session tracking such as cookies or HTTP session and all that? Will it remember the client on its own? Answer is no. So you'll have to take care of session tracking. We'll have to manage the session tracking in form of cookies and all that. Now, when you say, okay, let me ask you, who is going to send the request to whom? Client to server or server to client? Simple question, simple answer. C to S. Okay. So you have to be clear about when you are sending the request, what are those, what does that request packet consist of? See guys, if you have read this, heard this thing, so much time we wouldn't have wasted. Today onwards, strictly, first thing is the reading homework. When I say reading homework, I'm not allowing to that reading in the lab session. Evening time, night time, 10 to 15 minutes read is all I'm asking you, please. Okay. So here, what is the, how do you send the request? You send it using a URL. Tell me, what does a URL stand for? Basic questions I'm asking. Uniform Resource Locator. Now we are dissecting the URL. This is typically the Java style URL, but basic things are the same. Whether it is J2EE or later you are going to learn ASP.NET or you have learned already Node.js, all of them are using HTTP. So everything starts with a scheme. Scheme is equal to protocol. So this is your application layer protocol. The moment you have HTTP, the transport layer is TCP and followed by the IP layer, guaranteed. Now, anyone wants to tell me, what is the highlighted part? It's a, yeah, so it's a I can say it is a domain name, fine. It's not a domain actually. It is not an IP address. It is what? Your DNS qualified host name. Do you know the word DNS? Domain name service. So this DNS is simply a mapper to the IP address. Okay. So when you say www.abc.com or server.com, it is just nothing but the host, which is DNS qualified host name. So either you can say this or you can replace it by IP address 192.168.0.1 something. Okay. So tell me, who is responsible for identifying the host? Domain name service. But DNS uses what? IP layer to locate the host. There are so many hosts which are running, which are there on the network. So IP layer does the job. Now tell me, what is the next part you are looking at? What is it? A port number. So on one machine, when your request packet reaches a particular host, host means physical machine. That physical machine could be local host today, or it could be up in the clouds. We don't care. What will change between the local and remote scenario is only the host name or host details. Today it is going to be local host 8080. Later it can be some AWS address, Heroku, cloud address, or some remote host address, remote IP in short. Next one, like you said correctly, there are port numbers. So port numbers are not the physical peripherals, they are just the memory slots. So anyone knows what are the values of the port numbers which are reserved ports in Windows? The first case slot, 0 to 1023 are all reserved ports. So can I launch the server? Can I launch my web server on any free port after 1024? Yes or no? Answer is yes. Yesterday, you remember, some of you are having a port clash issues. Well, the default port on which Tomcat HTTP listener listens is 8080. So I showed you server.xml and we reconfigured it to some other port number. Are you all understanding? So this is that port number. So now tell me, who will resolve the port number? See, your packet has already reached the host. So who will resolve the port number? IP layer or the transport layer? I mean IP or TCP? Of course it is TCP. Your IP layer job is done to locate the host, to resolve the host. But once it reaches the host, TCP ports are there, UDP ports are there. Ignore UDP ports. Focus on TCP. And who is listening? What is it we have installed? What is it which is running on this 8080 port? Anyone? What is it we have started on 8080 or 9090, whatever port number? Your Tomcat web server. Tomcat is a specific name, a web server. So now the request packet has been received by the Tomcat web server. And now, after resolving this much, whatever is the part of the URL which remains, what is it called? This remaining part is nothing but the path. Everyone understands this is the path. So this path is called as URI. What is URI standing for? What does URI stand for? Uniform resource identifier. So that is what we then when I take you, we are going to draw a picture. So be ready to draw a picture, draw a diagram. So this is what will tell that which is the web application. So it could be a banking web application, and under that you may have a login form under login.html. So this is the full dissection which we are going to draw in 2 minutes. So whenever client sends a request, what all parts are added in that request packet? HTTP methods. You said you have done the full CRUD. So everyone should be knowing at least these 4 methods. Is it known? Get, post, put, and delete. So here, till I take you to REST APIs, which is towards the end of your training, which are the main 2 methods we are going to use? Get and post. Put and delete we will introduce later. We will add them later. So here there will be HTTP method. Then there will be a path, which is nothing but a requesting URI. So whatever is after the port number is the uniform resource identifier. Then there will be a HTTP protocol version such as 1.1 or whatever. And then you will have headers. So there are so many headers, accept headers, cookies headers, so many headers you are going to learn. So this is the anatomy. This is the whatever, the contents of your HTTP request. Are we understanding it? And yesterday I had told you to apply the inspect option. And that is what I had shown you, that this is the URL, this is the accept headers. Once again, I'll show you when we go there. Okay. So who has sent this request to whom? Client has sent the request to the server. Server will process this request. So this is where you'll learn today, first server-side component, servlet, and a dynamic response. A response will be sent back. There are 2 types of responses, static response and dynamic response. What is a dynamic response, guys? Tell me, what is the meaning of dynamic response? Any idea or no idea? Tell me that way. Okay, built at runtime. So better one. I'll just expand on that. So the response which is generated after doing some processing, after the request has been done in actual runtime, is the dynamic response. I'll give you an example. Suppose user submits the login form having her credentials, email and password. And from the server, you are supposed to send a response, successful login, welcome to my website, or invalid login, please retry. Simple. So this response, what will you call it as? Static response, already existing, or a dynamic response? Of course, dynamic response. Why? Because your server-side component has to hit the database, has to fire some JDBC logic, some DAO access or whatever, and then generate the response. So throughout the training, we are going to talk about dynamic responses. So any response packet, be it static, be it dynamic, what are the contents of HTTP response packet? Extremely important topic. So it has response status code. So have you heard about 100 series, 200 series, 300, 400 and 500 series? 1 to 500. Okay. So tell me, what is that response codes of 100 series correspond to? Debugging, all debugging codes. What is 200 series talking about? Success code or failure? Success information. 3XX, 300 series. Somebody was getting 304 yesterday. Redirection. All redirect locations, redirection series is 304. 400 series. Error is not sufficient. Is it a client-side error or server-side error? Not found is completely wrong. That is only 404. I'm talking about 400 series, guys. Wrong answer. Client-side error is a correct answer. You are going to see 400, 404, 405. All that indicates client has sent you something wrong. Okay. And finally, 500 series. What does it mean? Server side error. Okay, so these are the basic things after doing web programming or web technologies, everyone should know. Next, all this is prerequisite. You should be knowing this already. Then after the status code, you have response headers. So what is that content length? What your server is sending? You have content types. So tell me, if the content type is text/HTML, what does it mean? What type of contents your server is sending to the client? Of course, HTML text, HTML data, HTML contents. Are you text/HTML? So HTML type of text. The default is text/plain, plain text. So typically in HTTP, we send text/HTML. But when I take you to RESTful APIs, how are you going to exchange the data between a front end and a back end? Using text/HTML or application/JSON? Application/JSON. If you want to download some images, what will be the, suppose it is a GIF image, what will be the response content type? Image/GIF. So what are these called? These are called as MIME types. Okay, so here the content type is sent so that client browser can understand what are the type of contents, and accordingly it can apply the plugin and interpret the data. So after the status code, after the headers, what is sent finally is the response body. Response body, response data. So these are the contents of HTTP response. Tell me, HTTP request and HTTP response structure, clear or not clear? I've shared it on the first day under web programming prerequisites. Okay, and then there are details. What are the two methods we are going to really look at? Use in the first half of J2E, get and post. So this is your typical get request, how it looks like. It has got so many headers and all. And later, like this, I can't spend time, otherwise we'll run out of time. So HTTP 1.1 gives you all these HTTP verbs, HTTP methods. And the first topic as a servlet, it can process any of these requests. But our goal is going to be get and post. Get and post methods are mainly used. So tell me, which one is secure between get and post? Post is secure. Why? If you send some data, will it be added in the query string or will it be added in the body of the header? Body of the request, body of the request. Whereas, so you know this. So get, if you use the query string appears along with the URL. Here, you know the structure of the query string very well. But if you use the post, post is basically, it is going to encapsulate all the request data in the body. So I have given in detail get versus post. And famous question, again, I don't know. Have you heard about this? Safety and idempotency. So definitely go through that. What is that idempotent HTTP methods? It's a popular question. So idempotent, do you know, have you heard this idempotent? You not heard it in this? Guys, today take this HTTP basics seriously and read it end to end, start to end. Idempotent request means it is all HTTP. So as expecting, it means if you send the same request multiple times, it should have, if it has the same outcome, then it is idempotent request. So if you say, I'm trying to get the resource, get all available topics. If I send this request 100 times, what do you expect to see? Same result or different result? Same result, provided administrator has not deleted the topic. We are making that assumption. So that is your idempotency. Idempotent request means even if the same request is sent multiple times, identical request, it will have the same result. Okay. So get head options we don't use, put as well as read are regarded as idempotent. But here, post request, tell me, What we use post request for typically? For getting the resource or for creating a new resource? For creating the new resource. So you only tell me. Post method, idempotent. If I say place the order, okay, and if I give the same request, post request 10 times, it will end up creating 10 orders, 10 resources. So idempotent or non-idempotent? It is non-idempotent. Okay, so I don't want to spend too much time. I've given you the table regarding safety and idempotency. Definitely go through that. So this is a prerequisite. So now let us keep this information, use this information and draw request response flow. But before that, I want to refresh your memory. So open this thing. You have to keep this open anyway. And here, let us deploy the web application which we had created yesterday. Today we'll create a fresh one, don't worry. So here, if I click, this is our yesterday's web application. How do you deploy? I hope everyone remembers. Right click, run as, run on server. Okay. Next, and finish. Open the console, double click on the console, and you can see this. So tell me, what will you call this? Server side or client side? The web browser. Client side space. What will you call this ID and when the console? Server side or client side? This is your server side space. Everyone is clear? So now, if you send a request, okay, why don't we try the another client? Chrome client, Microsoft Edge, anything. So suppose if I say I'm sending another request. So that is why I asked you to refresh. But before refreshing, I told you to open the inspect option. Network tells you everything. So if you send the same request again, here, you can easily see this was for tracing the request and response, guys. So here, the headers. So observe carefully. This is the URL client is sending to the server, which is the default request method it is using. You check it from your own network panel, get method. This is that response status code. This is that remote address, 127.0.0.1, localhost address. I have changed the port for one of your help, 9090. Some of your server could be running on 8080. These are the response headers, okay? And these are, you can see connection date, etc. And these are the request headers. This tells you everything. So if you click on response, this is that welcome page which was downloaded. So this is your request response flow, which is what we are going to put it on a piece of paper and understand it inside out. So I hope everyone's request and response is working. Now you can start drawing with me. I have got the full diagram ready, but like I always do, if you draw it with me from scratch, you understand the feel, you get the feel. So start with me. So what we are discussing is a most important topic. So it is a HTTP request and response flow. Without this, you will not understand a word about Spring MVC. I'm seriously surprised that after doing React, talking to backend, how you are still unaware of it. But anyway, like I said, you can start understanding that part also easily after this discussion. HTTP request and response flow is what we are discussing. Okay, so here, let's start with the some example. So who is going to send the request to whom? Client to server. How? Using the URL. And which is the URL I'm taking? The same URL which we gave. So pick up this. So the same URL, and we are going to see the traversal. Are you clear with the question? Are you clear with what we are going to do in the next 10 minutes? Objective is clear. We are going to trace this request response flow totally. so that there's zero confusion. And I'm telling you, it will help you a lot for your earlier training also, and further ASP.NET, any web programming training, it will help you. So start from the client side. Let's start drawing the client side. Keep the less space for client. Do we ever write a web application for single client or multiple clients? Of course, multiple clients. So start labeling them. I'm going to give you this. So, but still I will insist you draw, because anytime, every time I'm going to refer to this flow. So suppose this is client 1, client 2, and let's say client N. Okay, nth client. So now let us identify this. So this is going to be of the type thin client. Means what are the prerequisites? What it should have on the client side? You tell me. If you want to use a thin client in form of a web browser, do you require any JDK or JRE or JVM? Any Java components are required or not required? Answer is not required. Thin client, no Java. So what is the only thing it requires is a web browser and a net connection to the server. Everyone is clear? What are the prerequisites? Is there going to be any thick Java layer, JDK, JRE, JVM? Nothing. All it requires is a web browser and a net connection. Okay, so this is the prerequisite, and this is what we are going to have here. This is, so now imagine that this is the request. Okay, so client has sent this particular request to the server. Now let us start drawing the server side space. So we were in, so have a partition because you are confused. So draw a divider line to divide your client space to server space, client space from server space. And label the left-hand side as the client side space. Understanding the diagram totally so far? No confusion? Okay. So now, before I show you the flow, let us draw what is going to be existing on the server side. So you can label it as a, you label this as a client side space. I'll label this as a server side space. Okay, server space, server side space, whatever. Okay, so be clear, client and a server. Okay, so this is your server space. Now, when you talk about server space, we are going to start drawing the boxes. When I say boxes, what I mean is the layers. So what is the outermost layer? The physical machine. Today, our client and server are co-located running on the local host. But in actual practical experience, it will be somewhere remote. Okay, so draw the outermost box and label it. Of course, I'm going to label it for you. So this is nothing but, this is nothing but your host. Host means what? Physical machine. So this is your physical machine, which can be a local host currently, or which can be a remote host up in the clouds or in premises or whatever. So a physical machine is the host, and this is who is going to resolve this host. There can be so many hosts on the network. Resolved by, anyone wants to tell me which layer, which networking layer resolves it? Who resolves the host on the net? So yeah, IP layer. But if you are using a DNS, so it could be DNS. But what does a DNS, domain name service, what it uses internally is nothing but the IP layer. So domain name service is a mapper. It just uses the IP address internally. So host is resolved by the, you can say IP layer. And IP has two formats, IPv4, 4 by IP address, or you have IPv6. So those details they are totally transparent to us. So that is your outermost layer. Okay. So now let us do some connections. So this is your outermost physical machine and resolved by the IP layer. So now you can use some colors, or you don't have to change the color. So now this request has started from client and the outermost layer it has reached, which is nothing but the host. Okay, so this is one layer. And which part of the protocol it has used? After the scheme, whatever sits here is the DNS qualified host name, or it could be an IP address. So your request has reached the host. Are you clear how the request has reached the host? Using the IP layer, or you can say using the DNS layer. Clear or not? So far, the first layer is clear. Now draw the inner box, inside box. So here, what is it? On one machine, is there only one port number, or are there multiple TCP port numbers? Multiple. What is the range? 0 to 64K, 65535. But the reserved ports are 0 to 1023. First K ports are reserved. Later ports, you can start your own services. So tell me, which is the port number we have configured for, which is the default port number your Tomcat uses? 8080. Those who had issues, we changed them the 299. 1990 is just a number. You can have 717, anything, 7000, anything. It's just a port number. Your React, for example, runs on 3000. Can you change this React port? Of course, yes. Edit that configuration file and you can change the port number anytime. You know that. So coming back to the point, let's go faster. So here, label. So I'm labeling the inner box, inner layer. So this is your web server. Who is listening on 8080 or that 1990 port number? Tomcat web server. So give the proper this thing. So this is where your web server, which is the current web server we have chosen, Apache supplied Tomcat. So web server is listening on either 8080 or your 1990 port. So this is your port number. And who has resolved it? Resolved by IP layer or a transport layer? It's a TCP port. So of course, identified by TCP, a transport layer. Okay. So now you understand that this is how your Tomcat gets the request. Web server running on the port 8080. So now continue with that arrow. So here, now this your request. Thanks to this, where we mention this port number after the IP. Okay, after the DNS qualifier hostname, after the hostname comes this. So your request packet reaches here. This exercise is compulsory if you have not done it earlier. Okay, so where has the request received? Reached web server listening on 8080 or whatever, some port number. Are we all good so far? Okay. So now, which technology I'm talking about? Java. So like how in entire core Java, we used to launch Java test. I mean, we used to launch a JVM. That time it was a client-side JVM. So now, who is going to manage all your server-side applications? Client-side JVM or server-side JVM? Easy question to answer. Who is going to manage? Of course, a server-side JVM. And that server-side JVM, which is within the web server, is nothing but called as web container. So now draw the inner layer, the server-side JVM, which is the most important layer of all. And tag it properly, label it properly. So this is your server-side JVM. So this is your, you'll require a lot of space here actually. So server-side JVM, which is better known as web container. And I'm going to I'm going to take this word literally billion times. I'm saying billion times. So of course, short form is must, WC. So hereafter, WC, when I say what I mean is a web container, which is nothing but the JVM, which is running inside your currently Tomcat web server. Later it can be JBoss, it can be WebLogic, it can be anything. So what is the main job? There is a to-do list. There is a complete job list of your web container. But overall, It is going to manage your server-side applications, server-side web applications. Who is going to manage your server-side web applications? Answer is the web container. Reached here? I'm waiting for your response. Reach here? Servlet and all, I've not even mentioned Shubham, so why you're going ahead of time. So here, this is going to manage the server-side applications. So now listen to this carefully. When you see Tomcat, Tomcat is not a full-fledged web server. It is essentially a web container. But I don't want to keep my discussion only for Tomcat. I want to tell you generically. So what happens is, whenever any request comes from client, your web server looks into URL, looks into the path. So this path is nothing but uniform resource identifier. And anytime in the path, your web server sees this is nothing but the name of the dynamic web application. So when the web server says that you want something from dynamic web application, web server says, I cannot handle this request. So web server delegates the request handling to the server-side JVM, which is nothing but the web container. I'll repeat my last statement. Web server has a look at the path is equal to URI. And if this path has the name of the dynamic web application which we had created yesterday, web project, can web server handle it without the help of web container? Answer is no. So web server simply delegates the request handling to which part? The server side JVM, which is known as web container. Understood the delegation? So who is in charge of the further processing? Web container. Now, so now we come to the inner box. I mean, this is your innermost layer, not innermost, inner layer. Now tell me, in one web server, as in one web container, will you be able to deploy only one web application or multiple? Single or multiple? Answer is multiple. So yesterday you deployed our first one. Today you'll have day 2 web, day 3 web likewise. You got me? So now start the innermost boxes, which represents your web application. So this is just a token. You can have multiple of them. So this is your nothing but a, label it properly. This is your dynamic web application. I'm not showing you static web applications. Servlets, when I start in couple of minutes, are nothing but your dynamic web components. So this label it as dynamic web application, the innermost layer, whose entire processing is going to be managed by the web container. So when you write dynamic web application, the moment you have multiple of them, how will container know whether the request is for /day1, /day2, /day3? Every web application has the unique name. And that name is nothing but the one which appears. It is called as the context path. Web application is equal to web context. So here, label it. What will be the path for this? Obviously, suppose I'm talking about this. Which will be the path? Start with a slash. Why I'm saying start with a slash? It is a part of the URL. The separators are slashes. So it is, for example, d1.1 underscore web. Today, we'll be writing something like, for example, today you might, not might, we will, because serverless we have to start. Let's say /day 2.1 web, something like. Or later, maybe when we are developing a content management system, I might have /CMS and likewise. So this is your web application identified by the path. Understood so far? Getting something? Okay. So now related. Open your whatever STS and open the Project Explorer. And here, right click on your project. Did that? Say properties. Right click on your web project and say properties. And here there will be somewhere third from last, web project settings. Third entry from the last is xdoc wiki test and all, and web project settings. And tell me, what are you looking at? What is it you are looking at? You are looking at context root. So web application is called as web context, and this is the root of your current web application. Are you understanding what I'm talking about? So each web application has a root, context root, and that is nothing but currently I have not changed I've kept the name and the context root same. So it will be /day1.1 web. Okay. Now take a look at third entry from the top called as deployment assembly. Click on the third entry from the top, deployment assembly. Got it? So / is nothing but the root of the web application. And that is mapped to a special folder, src main web app. So whenever you want to add anything under the root, which is the folder where you will copy it under HTML, JSPs and all that CSS and JS, you will copy it under src main web app. And about web-INF classes later. So this is just to, make you relate to the diagram. So coming back to the point, this is your web application. Okay. Now, what type of contents are you going to write in these next 2-3 weeks? You've already seen HTML content. Guys, web container is going to manage entire web application. But web container is not a magician. It requires instructions. So that is where your XML configuration files will come in. So somebody had forgotten, I guess Sagar, web.xml. So you have to add that web.xml as the deployment descriptor to give the instructions to the web container about your web application. So let me see your understanding. Which instruction you have given in that web.xml so far? You remember we have given one instruction already yesterday. Anyone wants to tell me which instruction? No idea, no memory. Which is the instruction we have given to the web container in that web.xml yesterday? Nobody? Open your web.xml. Don't just sit there scratching your brains. Okay, but what is that? Welcome file. Yes, I was expecting an answer, welcome file. So you are telling the web container, if any client tries to access my dynamic web application is equal to website is equal to web portal, which is the welcome page, which is that landing page, which is that welcome file to send is index page. So such instructions, that was just a beginning. We will have so many instructions today. Okay, so XML. And here you can of course add your CSS, JavaScript, and no, we're not adding a React components and all, but you can add Java. React is what? JavaScript library, this. But mainly here, I'm here or we are here to learn Java web components. So you will be adding a servlets. Now I'll talk in Java. Later JSPs, Java server pages. You will learn something called a Java bean. Then you have filters for security. You've got listeners, your DAO layers, POJOs, whatever. So much of Java. Okay, I have space. So POJOs, you will have controllers, service layer, so many things you are going to learn in this next 2-3 weeks. So all of that we are going to deploy it, add it in the web application. That is what you are going to learn. Okay, so this is the type of the content, HTML content, JSP content, servlet content, etc. So now carry forward the request. So tell me, looking at the path, your web container will route, I'm talking about routes, will route the request to the first web application, second or the third one. Easy question, dumb question, the first one. Okay, so delegate it further. Now, who is the manager of the web application? Web container. Which is the deployment descriptor? Which is the manual? Which is the instruction guide for the web container? What is the name of the file which your web container will refer to? Web.xml. And which is the instruction we have given? The instruction is the landing page, the welcome page is index page. So where it is going to look for index.html? Under the root. But what is this root? See this, right click, properties, deployment assembly. What is the root of the web application deployed to? Which path? SRC main web app. So if you remember, yesterday I told you SRC main web app, and this is where you have copied the index.html. Is it making sense slightly? The path and all, the deployment / the root of the web application mapped to SRC main web app. This is just the Eclipse ID. Change the what do you say, ID, and you may have different paths, but the root is the same. So coming back to the point, now let's continue the story faster and complete it. So here, now tell me, so which is the welcome file which your what web container will take it? Index page, where it will search under the root. Which is the root deployed to? SRC main web app. And now the response journey begins. Now so request has been reached, and so in the response content, which is the page it will send? Whose HTML contents it will add? Simple question. Index.html, what else? Okay, so now start the return journey. So your web application sends back, web container takes this index page and sends it back to the web container sends it back to the web server. What is the job of the web server? Web server has to create, see the point here. I don't have the space here, so I'm drawing. So web server puts it in the HTTP response packet. So let me take a point here. So here, that's why I showed you. What is the structure of the HTTP response packet? Typically it has, so okay, I'll give you the header. I'll write it here. This is your HTTP response packet, which contains that index page. So HTTP response packet. What it consists of is status code, 3 things. Response status code. Let me say this properly. If there is no error, which is the default success code here? What is the value of the success code? 200. So here you will see response status code as 200. Now, there can be some headers. I'll give you an example. The header will be content type. So tell me, there will be so many headers. So one of the header is going to be content type. Anyone wants to tell me what will be the value of this header? Are we sending application/JSON or text/HTML? Of course, it will be text. It is TEXT, by the way. So because you'll later make mistake, text/HTML. And then there is a content length and so many. I'm not writing the whole header, a whole whatever. And then lastly, there is the body, response body. So anyone wants to tell me what will it add in the response body? Index page, exactly. So the response body will consist of index page, index.html. Are you visualizing the response? So it consists of status code, headers. I should have said headers. You make a correction, and the body, response body. And this response is, see, we were here. So continue this. It is sent from web container to web server to, of course, the host using that TCP IP, and this response is sent all the way back to the client. When the client browser gets it, it looks at 200, okay. So it doesn't give you any error messages, page not found and all. And then it looks at the content type as index.html and interprets this response and shows you that welcome message. So this completes one request response loop. Are we at least 20% clear? How that whole request response loop, how it visits different layers, and how is the request processing done? This is extremely important. in understanding Spring, in understanding any web programming, any web programming layers. Okay, so this was the one of the requirements. So this much is little bit of theoretical I have to cover. So this was your basic one. So just to break the monotony, otherwise you'll fall asleep. Let's create quickly a second web application. And yesterday's web application, because of HTML, we were generating what? Changing static responses or dynamic responses. What will you call this? Wait, Abhijit, I'm in the middle of something. A static web response. So now when we start with servlet, we will be able to serve the dynamic web response. Okay. Yeah. So I'll save this and send it. So here, wait a second. So where are we? Java E help, day 3 help. I already got this diagram earlier drawn, but like I said, it is always best to draw it with you. So let me call it as whiteboard for request response. Whiteboard request response day 3 help. So let me just send it to you guys in case you have not drawn it, or in case you missed some of it, you can always look at it. Day 3 help, whiteboard request response. I've sent you the diagram, Abhijit. So now, so this is what we have. Now let me take you further by doing some hands-on. So we're going to do the same thing. So let me say this. This is your day actually 3, right? Day 3 in J2E. Fine. So let's create now day-wise projects. So everyone ready to start? Okay. Again, I'm saying you don't have to code along. If you are coding along, I'll definitely wait for you marginal, not the whole time. So is your STS open? Can I start? Okay. So same steps I'm giving. So here, now you know the shortcut. Your perspective is already changed to Enterprise Java, Java EE. So here, you will get a shortcut right here, Dynamic Web Project. So now I'm going to start the same wise, like how I used to do in Core Java, day 3.1. They are the web projects only. So I'll not add that extension day 3.1 web. You can say day 3.1 class as usual. No change. But here, if you keep this dynamic web module version as 4.0, loading of XML becomes extremely slow. That is a known bug. So we go to the earlier version. Change the version to day 3.1. Keep responding. Okay. Don't be in a hurry to say finish. Otherwise, that web.xml doesn't get generated. Next. Check the checkbox. What is going to be the context root? Day 3.1. You can change it to whatever you want. Currently, don't change. And what is going to be equivalent to your root, where you can add your HTML, JSPs, or the public document space, SRC main web app. Mark to root of the web application. And now you can, have you checked the checkbox? And now you can say finish. If you forget, you know, right click Java E and you can still generate. But this way easier. And in a minute, we're just doing the same things what I showed you yesterday, just confirming. So now SRC main web app. This is just to give you, more comfort. Open web.inf web.xml. Do we require so many welcome files or one is sufficient? One is sufficient. So you can get rid of rest of it. Is it compulsory to name it as index.html or can I call it as test.html also? Anything, it's just a name. So currently the norm is index.html. So I kept it as this, but you can play with it. Later when we do the login, we are going to start with the case study sometime. That time I'll make my welcome page as login form. So all that later. So save it. This page does not get created automatically. So you tell me, where should I create this index page? Under which folder? Under the root. But what is root mapped to? In Eclipse, STS, give me the folder name. I'll repeat the statement. Yes, web app is a very right answer. So I'll repeat. This has to go under the root, but root is deployed to what? SRC, main, web app. So right click on web app, new, and create the HTML index. And here, nothing but a welcome message. Welcome to my web app. Welcome to web app. It's all static so far. I mean, we've not added any dynamic contents. This is just to confirm that things are working fine. Till you are new, follow the instructions. After a day or two, I won't have to give you so much of help. Everyone completed? So now let us just see whether it is deployed and working correctly. Don't be in a hurry to say finish. Give me time to explain. So right click on day 3.1, run as, run on server. When you say right click and run as and run on server, you are deploying. Deployment is equal to installing a server-side web application on a particular server. We are deploying it on Tomcat. So click on run on server. Oh, I did not save it. So it is asking me, do you want to save it? Of course, I want to save it. Which server are we going to use? Our external added server or VMware TC server? Of course, Tomcat, first one. It has selected it by default. And you can see read now, guys. Apache 9.0 supports the J2EE 8 web modules also, which is what you are learning. Okay, next step. Now tell me, are you going to work on the earlier web application or only today's latest one? Answer is only the latest one. If you add too many web applications here, trust me, your web server starts slowing down. So can you see a button, remove all? When you say remove all, don't worry. It's not going to delete anything. It is simply uninstalling, undeploying earlier web application. So generally, keep the latest one, the one which you are working on here by saying remove all. And now you say finish. It is asking you whether you want to remove. Say okay to that. And it will ask you, do you want to start the server or restart the server? Okay, all the way. Double click on console. And so many things happen so fast, so you might get confused. Forget client. Don't go to the client yet. Open the server side console. Here you will see server running. Click on console and always confirm whether this console is all error-free. There should not be any errors here. That means your server has started properly. This is your server side console, guys. Go off to client. This is your Chrome client browser and you should see the welcome page. What has happened internally? When you say right click run as, your IDE does it for you. It launches the client and client has already sent one request. This request has traveled through all these layers which I explained in last 1 hour or whatever, and it has rendered the response, completing one request response loop. Relating to what I'm saying? Making sense? Yes or no, guys? Only two acknowledgements I got. Okay, couple of them. Okay. So now tell me, is this web application only meant for one client or multiple clients? Of course, multiple clients. So let us launch another client. Another client, I'm not saying another tab. See, different tabs from the same browser, share cookies and all of that, you'll feel lost. So launch, I hope you have got some other browser. It could be Firefox. It could be whatever. It could be Chrome. It could be anything. Okay. So here I have opened the Microsoft Edge. Anyone wants to tell me now, is this a client or is this a server? First thing, because people were confused and giving me wrong answer. This is your client side. Now, this client wants to send the request to the server. Anyone wants to tell me what should be the URL. I already got the answer. Yes, D 3.1, right, very well. So I don't have to say HTTP, it comes automatically. So localhost 8080/D 3.1. So now I think it is making sense. This thing, don't copy it. I want you to write it, Avinash. So send the URL request and tell me. It has again, oh, oh, sorry. I forgot. Is now my server is running on 9090. I totally forgot. So are you seeing the same web application, same web content served to another client? Are you getting it? So this is your one web application accessible to any clients. Got it all? Okay. So now let us take you to the next step. Now a little bit of reading. This is what we covered. So read this. We keep saying dynamic web application word so many times. So I'm not making any assumptions. I'm giving you everything. So whether you know it or don't, you are at the same level. You will be at the same level. Read. So when you say dynamic web application, is it going to be a server side application or client side? Obviously server side. Deployed on any web server, be it a Tomcat, later it can be app server, JBoss, it can be anything. And what is it? What is the job of it? Servicing web clients, servicing thin clients. And which is the application layer protocol we are going to use throughout? HTTP later can be modified by HTTP over SSL, secure socket layer, HTTPS. And you have seen the complete request response flow. So all of it I have written, I mean, not the flow, but HTTP basics, I already revised it for you. So this is the objective we have done yesterday. So skip that. ID. Okay, let me ask you. This folder structure, as you can see, who is creating for us? ID is creating for us, right? But it is a very popular question. That is the next thing I'm explaining it to you. What is ID creates this J2E compliant web application folder structure. But the popular question is, what are the actual details? What are the J2E compliant web application folder structure details? And so that is what I'm showing you in a minute. So before that, read this much. I told you, web container plays a very, very important role on the server-side applications. Just read that. I'll explain it, and then I'll show you the internal folder structure. Okay, so some of the things you already know. It is nothing but what is a web container and what are its jobs. I've just mentioned few of them because it becomes too much otherwise on the first day. So creating, okay, sorry. It is a server-side JVM within a web server. You have seen it with the layers, with those boxes. It's a runtime environment for which dynamic web components you are going to learn with me, servlet and JSP main. And because you have Spring security, I mean, you have security also. So you'll see a filter. Filter is also required. So servlet, JSP, and a filter. What all things your server-side JVM is equal to web container going to do it for us? Who is going to create these HTTP requests? I mean, who is going to encapsulate incoming request into request object? Container. Who is going to create those HTTP response objects? Web container. You will see shortly These dynamic web components, today focus only on servlet, has a proper life cycle consisting of init, service, destroy. That is the reason, guys, I started using these words in last 2-3 days. So who is going to manage the life cycle of dynamic web components? Programmer or WC? P or WC? Answer is web container. Of course, you'll have to override those methods. You'll have to tell what is it you want to do during initialization, etc. But invocation of the methods, it is your callback sequence, guys, callback mechanism. So you write the code and you are not going to call those methods at all. It is the server side JVM it is going to call it. Who is going to give you ready-made support of those primary services? Web container. Web container is going to implement it and going to give you one of the best ways to sell the web container to you. Let me ask you, same old question. Are we going to write this web application for one client or multiple? Everyone knows multiple. So multiple clients, when you actually deploy the web application in the cloud, GCP or whichever cloud you choose as your GCP or whatever AWS, finally, you will have concurrency, you will have concurrent clients. Sorry, you will have a concurrent request coming from multiple clients. Agreed? Yes or no? Okay. So the moment I say concurrency, how do we handle concurrency? What do we use for handling concurrency? Threads. So who is going to manage all this multi-threading? Who is going to manage the concurrent handling of client requests? Programmer or web container? A big relief, web container. And at that time, I'll show you, it uses a famous framework, executor framework, executor service framework, and that is what it uses for multi-threading. So you'll see all connections. And later, when you want to remember the client from login to logout, who is going to manage the session tracking for us? Again, the container. And so many additional things it is going to do. So let me show you. Okay, so this is the to-do list. This is the job list. This is what is your web container is going to offer you ready-made. Okay, so before I start with the servlet, let me show you the diagram which has which has the internal folder structure, actual folder structure required for J2EE. So the moment you read this word J2EE compliant, think and answer. Is this folder structure going to be specific, server specific, as in Tomcat specific, or is it going to be server independent? S or I, specific or independent? 100% independent. Because the moment I say J2EE, it is a specification. So today you created, deploy it on Tomcat, take the same, deploy it on WebLogic or WebSphere or WebLogic, or Glassfish, I meant, it will get you the same result. So what is that so-called internal structure? All this is essential to your further coding. So bear with me. So if you see diagrams, yeah. So the folder, picture name is J2EE compliant web application folder structure. This starts giving you, more and more idea before we actually start servlet programming. So the title is J2EE compliant folder structure. For Tomcat, there's a special name called as web apps. And web apps is referred to as hot deployment folder. Guys, if you just read the names, if you just hear, you feel bored. So do it parallelly. Parallelly means open the folder structure. Go to your Tomcat home. What is Tomcat home? Wherever you have installed is the wrong word, extracted the Tomcat. Keep one window open with the Tomcat home. Reach here. Tell me when you reach here. Okay. Can you see a special folder called as web apps here? Go inside. So this is your hot deployment folder. This is going to be specific to Tomcat. Don't misunderstand me. So what is the meaning of hot deployment folder? any dynamic web application, if you add here, will you have to stop the server and restart the server for its deployment? Answer is no. It will be like we have live reload. I'll talk in React terms. Everyone knows live reload server, React. You make the changes to React components, and when you have said npm start, the changes are incorporated. How does that happen? Live reloading. Everyone knows live reload server, live reload part of React. So the same thing here, hot deployment folder structure. Okay, so now coming back to the point, let me explain this. So this is the only thing which is Tomcat specific. So when you choose JBoss WebLogic, this folder name will change, but the internal folder structure won't. So now read this carefully. The name of the application can be anything. Just now I created day 3.1. So that is called as context root. And this is what represents the root of your web application. So take it for, remember, web context is equal to entire web application. So now start looking from the mandatory branch. These two are optional. Of course, we'll create it, but optional. So what is the name? Which is the folder which must exist for a web application? The name of the folder is WebINF. Case sensitive or case insensitive? 100% case sensitive. So is it mandatory or optional? Mandatory. Now hear the next statement carefully. Whatever contents you add under WebINF, will they be accessible to the client or inaccessible, private or public? Answer is all private. That is why, guys, if you make a mistake and if you create your index page by mistake under WebINF, what is the error message you will see? If you try to access it from client, HTTP 404, page not found, because that's simply WebINF and below is not accessible. I hope you understood me. Next one. What is it typically stored under WebINF? Okay, by the way, WebINF stands for Web Information Folder. Come down. The first and most important entry is web.xml. So what is that web.xml? DD. DD is in deployment descriptor of your web application. So in J2E, I'm going to explain it in a very clear-cut and crisp manner because this could be your project technology if you choose so. So I'm writing some W questions. So who is going to read this web.xml? I'm telling you guys, 90% of the answer of who is going to be web container. Okay, so web container is equal to server-side JVM within a web server, which is nothing but the runtime environment of your runtime manager of your web components. Now the next question, is your web container going to read this per every request? Absolutely not. It has better things to do. Otherwise, request processing will be so slow. So when? Exactly once at the web application deployment time. Anyone wants to tell me how do we deploy the web application in our IDE? I'm looking at your answer. I said, tell me that this is how exactly Swati is right. When you say right click, run on Java, run on the server side, this is where you are deploying a web application. Very right. So your web container is going to read all these instructions from this web XML exactly once at the deployment time. And most importantly, what does it consist of? XML tags. So those XML tags are what? Instructions meant for web container. So you're going to see so many instructions. You have only seen the welcome file related instruction. Later you'll see session configuration, security tags, servlet deployment tags, error page handling tags, etc. Okay, so let's have a quick recap. Which is the folder which is mandatory for a web application? WebINF. Whatever contents you add under WebINF visible to the client or not visible, accessible or not accessible, not accessible. What is the first content under WebINF I'm explaining? Web.xml. Who is going to read this web.xml? Web container. But who is going to add the entries in web.xml? You and me, deployer, programmer. So we added those welcome file list. Later we will add error page handling, security tags, session tags, servlet tags, etc. So who is going to add the information? Us, programmers. Who is going to read and interpret the information? Web container. When it is going to be read? Per every request? Absolutely not. Exactly once at the web application deployment time, run as, run on server, etc. And what it consists of is all these instructions. Now, to stop this session, looking at the time, what are the other two contents under WebINF? There is a subfolder called as classes. You won't see it from the ID. It is a hidden folder. Sometime, maybe day 2, day 3, tomorrow, day after, I'll show you that. So when you say classes as the name of the folder, what do you expect to see? Of course, .class files. So when we compile our servlets, DAO layer, POJOs, listeners, Java beans and all those .class files will be under the classes folder. And the last folder which you can see from the ID is a lib folder. And it is going to contain your additional jar files, which are required for Spring connectivity, Hibernate, JDBC, etc. Okay. So under WebINF, which are the 3 entries you should remember all your Java life? Web.xml. WebINF has classes. WebINF has lib. So this is the compulsory side. Now come to the root. The root is mapped to src main web app folder here. And what all you can store, whatever you store under root, is it going to be accessible to the client? 100% yes. So what will you call it? Public folder or private folder? Public folder. And what kind of contents you can add typically? We have added HTML. Later I can show you JSP, JavaScript, CSS, whatever you want to share with the client, we will add it here. But I'm not here to show you JavaScript or CSS or Bootstrap or whatever. We are here to learn Java. So here we will have a src folder, src main Java to be precise. And that is where after the break, we will start creating our servlets. So this is to give you an idea about the typical J2E compliant folder structure. And after the break, we will start with what is servlet, why servlets, little bit of servlet API. And we are going to write the first, like how you must have written first React component and all that, all those days back. We will be writing our first dynamic web component to generate some dynamic content, some changing content, some dynamic response content. So this was the total background, which is, I feel, essential. So what I'm doing is, before stopping for the break, just a second. Wait a second. Yeah. So I'll share my README. Of course, the rest of the help properly, but let you have this copy so you'll know what we are going to do in the remaining time. So I'm sending you this README, which is what I'm going to follow for explaining servlets, servlet APIs, and the whole stuff. So let's have a break here and we'll resume. Abhijit, I just now had shared the diagram. When you asked me earlier, I just now had shared the diagram with you. You did not get it? You did not copy it? Somebody must have downloaded it. Anyway, guys, when I share the diagram, okay, thanks, Akshay. So it's already there. So let us stop the, this thing. We are stopping the session here. We'll resume in 1 hour. So be here in time by 11:10. See you around.